The following is a recording of a live questions and answers session with Chris McCann that took place on Friday, November 15th, 2019.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to eBible Fellowship's Friday night question and answer program. During this time, we're going to open up the phone lines to take your call, and each person is invited to dial the number that was just mentioned, and we'll be glad to take your call and your question, and I'll try to respond as much as possible by turning to the Bible, which is God's holy word. But we only have short time together tonight, so we're going to go right to the first caller. Welcome to our question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Mr. McCann, I thought I'd give myself a break from John 6:21, so I went to a favorite Bible story, David killing Goliath, and I have a couple questions. It's 1 Samuel 17, verses 49, 50, and 51.
1 Samuel 17, verse 49. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran, and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled.
Is it possible to spiritually put the point where David puts the stone in his head to be 33 AD when Jesus bound the strong man? And then in the next, moment, we have the church age, and when he cuts off his head with the sword, is that May 21, 2011? And if so, he's not immediately made king, so would the subsequent time period he's in the caves and hiding, would that be a picture of the believers during Judgment Day?
No, I don't. As far as the last part of David hiding and not yet king, because Saul pursues him or follows after him, trying to kill him, and the Hebrew word for persecution is actually the word for follow after. So Saul's following after is literally what persecution is. And he was chasing him around, and then finally Saul meets his end at the hands of the Philistines, and he also has his head cut off, and then David becomes king. So the problem is that Saul is king at this point, and Saul can, I wouldn't say every place we read about him, but often is a picture of the corporate church, especially when he's chasing David out of Israel and into the land of the Philistines. It's a picture of the church persecuting Christ and driving the believers out. So I don't think we can carry the idea of that you're saying that it's May 21, 2011 and after. Now, it's interesting that you broke it up in two parts. I never thought of that before, because he was killed. Well, let's see. Does it say he was killed with a stone? He slang it, smote the Philistine in his forehead. The stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. David prevailed, and the word prevailed was victorious over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was, the stone did kill him, and then when he took the sword and cut off his head, that was like a second death. So I would, I've never really looked into this except the obvious that David's a type of Christ, and the giant, the Philistine, is a type of Satan, and seeing that main picture. But just looking at it now, it could be that it would relate to Christ going to the cross in 33 AD, which was a death blow, because Revelation tells us in Revelation 13, when Satan is loosed, and he was bound at the cross for the figurative 1,000 years, and in Revelation 13, when the beast comes up out of the sea, that's a picture of the loosing of Satan. And when he's loosed, coming up out of the sea in Revelation 13, we read that his deadly wound was healed. So the blow that Christ struck were like David here with the stone. It is a death blow at the cross, but then there's this little season of great tribulation where it appears that he's restored, and he has been. And then at the end of the great tribulation comes what the Bible does liken to death with the king of Babylon. In Daniel chapter 5, he's slain by the king Darius of the Medes and the Persians, and some other places too, where Haman is hanged on the 17th day of the second month, and so it pictures two deaths, and of course the completion of the second death, as he comes under the official judgment on May 21, 2011, but continues to exist throughout the prolonged judgment day, will be the last day, when then he's destroyed forevermore. So this time period would be like the second death, and it's something to think about. I appreciate your question and bringing up these verses. But thank you for calling and sharing. And let's go to our next caller. Welcome to our program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hi. I think it was you that mentioned this, but I'm not sure. That was said that Jesus is the crushed olive. And Jesus is the crushed olive, and I was wondering if there's a verse for that.
Well, it does sound familiar, and I think it has something to do with Gethsemane. I think we have some extra time tonight, and I don't see anyone else on the phone line, so let me look it up. Let's take a look at Gethsemane, that word.
Gethsemane means olive?
Well, it's a place of, I think, pressing. Let's see. Okay. Gethsemane is 1068. 1068, Gethsemane of Aramaic origin, oil press, and it's from the Aramaic, and it says compare 1660 and 8081 in the Hebrew. So let's take a look. 1660 is wine press. So it's that word. I think it's a compound word. And 8081, maybe this is where we got the idea. 8081 is, in the Hebrew, it would be pronounced semen. And 1660 is gat semen. It is the compound word, or these two words in the Hebrew, gat 1660, semen 8081, and semen is translated as oil, oiled, ointment, olive, and pine. So it would be like the oil from the olive, and so when Christ went to Gethsemane, and died, then the idea is he is the olive, and when he's crushed, it gives forth olive oil. And I think when you follow the trail of olive oil, it would be used for maybe lighting the candlestick or the daily. I don't remember exactly, but I would suggest looking up those two words in the Hebrew, 1660 and 8081, and see if they're used in relationship to oil for light, and that would be the picture. And we do read of the Lord Jesus in some of the Messianic Psalms. It has that idea that he has been broken and crushed, and the idea of the broken heart. It has to do with being completely crushed under the wrath of God. And of course, once Christ is crushed, it means he has died and payment has been made, and that's where the oil part comes in. Because of that, or when he's on the cross and they stab him with the spear, out comes water and blood. That's a similar picture, where because of that, the blood covers over sin, the water of the gospel, and the oil for the light of the Word of God that brings salvation. It's along those lines. Thank you for calling and sharing. And let's go to our next caller tonight. Welcome to our Friday night question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
The question was whether the two men prophesying out in the camp, not in the tabernacle, Numbers 11:26 and 27.
Let me take a look at that again. Numbers 11:26, 27. But there remained two of the men in the camp. The name of the one was Eldad, and the name of the other Medad, and the Spirit rested upon them. And they were of them that were written, but went not out unto the tabernacle, and they prophesied in the camp. And there ran a young man and told Moses and said, Eldad and Medad do prophesy in the camp.
The name Eldad, when I looked it up, it says love. God is love, like loving God, because El is God.
Hold it. Same thing applies. Let's take the time and go to look at Eldad. It's only found in those two verses. It's 4:19 in the concordance. So looking it up, 4:19, and it is number 410 is El, the word for God. 4:19 has 410 in it, and also 1780, and that's probably where they're getting the love part. Let's go over there, 1780, and well, it says here judgment. Let me make sure I got the right number. 419, 410, and 1780. You see, you have to check Strong's very careful. They do make mistakes, and in the definition, or in Strong's comment, actually, for 419, it lists these two words and says God has loved Eldad, an Israelite. Well, when you go to 1780 in the Hebrew, it's Aramaic corresponding to 1779, and it says judgment. It's only translated as judgment. 1779 is a Hebrew that's translated cause, judgment, plea, strife. And so there's no mention of love. This let's see if we can pronounce it out. This Aramaic word is pronounced din, and it's from the Hebrew dun. Okay, and so we have el din or el dun. It may not even be correct as far as the related word, because here it's el dad. It's like double D. The consonants are the how we would pronounce a D twice, and 1780 has only one D, or David, or however it's pronounced in the Hebrew, and same thing with 1779. So I don't think that, or it's possible that's not the correct word, the compound word. So it could be a word that has to do with love, and they just gave the wrong number.
Dad.
So let me, because this is an important point that I've noticed, because I spend a lot of time in the concordance. Don't trust the concordance. Don't trust Strong's definitions. Don't trust the numbers. And don't trust just because Strong says, this word is this number plus, with a compound word, it's these two. Don't automatically trust it. You got to check it out. And here we see there's an error somewhere, either with their understanding of love, because love is not in the number they gave, or they gave the wrong number, and that Strong's is an excellent work, but I would say it has dozens of these kinds of errors, and
okay.
And so be very careful. I'm not just speaking to you, I'm speaking to everybody. It's good for us to know, because we mention concordance so often. We have to check everything as carefully as we can.
The other name is Medad.
Okay, Medad.
Yes.
And if that reference that Strong's gave for Eldad was correct, it would be God of judgment, not God of love, or God love. And Medad, let's see, Medad, it's 4312 in the Hebrew. This word is said to be from 3032.
I'll call you back.
In the sense of loving, affectionate, Medad, an Israelite. So let's look up 3032 and see if it is related. 3032 is Yadad, and it's translated as cast. It's 3033 that is translated as dearly beloved, which is Yadidit.
My question is, if
4312. Let's see which word's in there. It does have Yadad. So it's not, again, if you go to the Hebrew, the Yadad that it is associated with is translated as cast. That is C-A-S-T. And it has to do with handle or to throw. So that has nothing to do with love. It's strange that both words in one part of Strong's are trying to identify with love, and so far we haven't seen any proof of that when we turn back into the concordance.
Because my question is, if these two were the latter rain prophets, can we tie the two prophets to the fourth gospel, where Jesus asked Peter about feeding sheep? If he loved him, and the Lord used two different words, agape and phileo, which is G25 and G53:6.
Well, yeah, I think what you were looking at based on some of the concordance definitions or information they were giving you about love. I think that's why you were trying to make that tie-in, and there is two of them. Eldad and Medad do prophesy in the camp. But I don't know. I think it's safer just to, for me, to wait for some time, maybe Lord willing in the future, to go through the chapter and to see, what, if possible, what God is laying out. The hardest thing is to pin. The hardest thing in understanding or interpretation. That's what we're trying to do by using God's words. We're trying to allow God to interpret the deeper spiritual meaning, to reveal it to us. And the hardest thing in interpretation is finding the spiritual time and season that it applies to. We can see certain truths and principles shine forth, but is it for the Old Testament? Is it the church age? Is it the latter rain? Is it the day of judgment? And it's very complicated, and it's not something that we can make snap decisions on. So it's probably best just to. Yes?
Can you please look at G 1730 instead of 1780? Somebody just texted me, a friend just texted me and said he's seeing 1730 that has to do with love, but you were seeing 1780.
You mean in the Greek? In the Greek?
Yes. She said you were seeing
but 1730. You can't get to Eldad and Medad, to the Greek. So what would this word have to do with 1730? Or you mean Hebrew, because 1730 in the Greek is manifest token. So I'll turn to 1730 in the Hebrew, and it is the word dod, and beloved, well-beloved fathers. This is probably where they were getting it from. Eldad and Medad. So this is possible. This is possible that Strong's just messed up the number they were trying to relate to, and it has different vowel pointing, but it does have the two dalids, and so that could be in view. But thank you for calling and sharing. And let's go to the next person on the phone tonight. Welcome to our Friday night question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
I have two scriptures I want to look at, and first one is Proverbs 31.
Proverbs 31.
It says about not drinking wine.
Okay, Proverbs 31. It says in verse 4, "It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted."
Okay, now I want you to flip over to 2 Samuel chapter 11. I'm not sure what verse is, like the third or fourth verse, where King David starts staring from his roof at Bathsheba.
Yeah. 2 Samuel 11. You want me to read it?
Yeah, read. You could skip on down to where he asked the question about the woman next door to Joab, I think.
All right, 2 Samuel 11, verse 2, "And it came to pass in an evening tide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired after the woman And one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?